Fight Nation.
Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host back east. It's the dynamic duo of Jumbo Josh and not too shabby Gabby. What's up? What's up, New York? Good to hear you guys.
What up?
Yeah.
Gabby stepped out. She's a big star. We can only afford her for one show.
I got you. All right. She's probably got a red carpet or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good to hear your voice, Josh. Missed it the last few days, but my man Ray Regal over here plugging, unplugging, and getting things done. So, yes. Looks like we're back on board with everything ready to go. We'll do some interviews. Michael J. White, Ray Cooper III stopping by. Do some audio cuts from the weekend. We'll keep recapping UFC 235, which took place this past Saturday. There's still news trickling out of that. Now, the guests will come in at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, followed by 6:30 Pacific and 9:30 Eastern. So that leaves us some pockets. Where you can call in at 877-FIGHT-93, 877-444-489-444. I butchered it, Josh. What is it?
877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893.
Yeah.
Holler at us.
Yeah, I had to tear a bunch of notes here, and I was scrambling around here. I have my little 5x7 cards that I lost. All right, so just remember, if you're dumb like me, 877-FIGHT-93. That's the easy one. Call in and react. There's no problem, man. I've been talking to my buddies about it. Hardcore casual fans, it doesn't matter whether it's texts, DMs, phone calls. Everybody's still talking about the great event that just took place. One champion defended. The other one was beaten. Jones, of course, the one that's still at the top of 205 and now at the top of 170 is Kamaru Usman. And, of course, that controversy with Lawler and Askren. Man, I want to hear your all take, Junkie Nation. What did you think of it? I don't think there's really a right or a wrong because it all happens so quick. And, again, many of us get the benefit of replays that the referee does not. So, we can talk it through, give our opinions. One thing's for sure, the UFC wants to run it back. Ben Askren doesn't. Robbie Lawler will do whatever. He'll fight anybody. But that's UFC 235. We have to touch still a little bit on the prelims because yesterday we spent a lot of time on the two title fights and the Lawler-Askren controversy that towards the end we were only able to kind of graze over it but not really dive into it. So we'll do a little bit of that as well. And then, just like it always happens, Josh, I really love this time slot for many reasons. There's a couple things that have been difficult to adjust to. But, boy, we cruise into some real cool news at times, you know what I mean? The latest is Jose Aldo and Volkanovski is featherweights here. They are Alex Volkanovski. They are going to be added to UFC 237, which takes place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil on May 11th. And that right there is solid news. You know what I mean? That's a great fight booking there. Aldo, the former champ, who is staying busy. I love it, just like John Jones, against Alex Volkanovski, who's got a great record. He's like 18-1 or something like that. And a lot of those wins have now come in the UFC. 19-1 and 6-0 in the UFC, for crying out loud. He's a stud, so he deserved a big matchup, and he gets it, except he's got to travel to Rio de Janeiro, and you know who the king of Rio de Janeiro is. It is Jose Aldo. That one's headlined by Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade. I just wanted to touch on that one a little bit because that I think is just a fantastic fight booking. You'll always hear Dana White say, our matchmaker meeting is on Tuesday, so on Tuesday I'm usually hitting that refresh button just to see what's up, because that's usually where you get this type of news. All right, Goes will be checking in just a second. Again, we're wrapping some behind-the-scenes stuff going on here, but we're connected to New York, so it's going to be a fun show. And
George,
we'll
that Aldo Volkanovski fight, that's
yeah.
like another one of these, legends of the sport against a young up-and-comer on a hot streak. It's like Silva Adesanya, another one.
Yeah, reminds me of exactly that one. It reminds me of Silva Adesanya, where you wonder if the legend still has gas in the tank, or if at his expense the other guy becomes a star, And it's happened to all the fighters. All the fighters have done that. Chris Lieben was a little bit of a veteran. He had fought on The Ultimate Fighter Season 1. He had his fair share of great fights in the UFC. But guess what? It was his job to either stop the hype train that was Anderson Silva coming out of Pride, or get his ass kicked and let the new guy, do his thing. And then that's the way that one played out. So, yeah, there's been a lot of those situations, Josh, in these past few years. It doesn't surprise me, and I think Homeboy deserved it, because Volkanovski's already passed some really, really stiff tests along the way. All right, so this past weekend, like we mentioned, the 2 title fights, look, they were fun fights to watch, especially if you're a hardcore fan, if you're a martial artist. There was a lot of stuff that was going on that was really, really fun to observe. But most people, the casual fan, the beer chugger, the woo guy, or the kick his ass Seabass guy, they like the drama. And of course, Colby Covington was in town to stir the pot. He started by invading Kamaru Usman's open workout. Then he was at the fight. Hell, he stopped at the MMAjunkie radio studio as well, and he wanted to make welterweight great again. He had a few flyers there. He was walking around with his megaphone. He went by the Palms VIP blackjack pit. Got a little impromptu meeting there with Dana White. That one almost got ugly, by the way. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna send you that audio, Josh, because that was a little bit of overtime we did over here, and you'll dig hearing that story. In fact, I don't know if I shared it with you, Josh, or with Junkie Nation, but on that particular night, the camera shuts off, right? But Colby Covington told us that Dana's crew kind of stepped to Colby's crew, but Colby says that the guys he was with, some big Samoan dudes provided by Poker Pro. I think his name is Michael Mizuraki. They call him the Grinder. They stepped to Dana's crew. He said Dana's bodyguard stepped down. Take that for what it's worth. It's Colby Covington. He didn't seem like he was lying. He didn't seem like he needed to add that to the story, but he did add to it. And that wasn't the last tussle that Colby Covington was involved in, because after the fights on Sunday, you saw at the Palms hotel line, the buffet line, he had another confrontation there with Kamaru Usman, Usman's manager Ali Abdelaziz, and another gentleman who I didn't recognize, but some were saying it may have been Usman's older brother, Muhammad Usman. But I'm not sure, because I haven't met that fella. We've only had him on the show, and I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I couldn't figure out if that was him. It was a big dude, though. It did look like it could be him, because I know that Muhammad is a heavyweight, and that dude did look like a big fella. But regardless, Colby Covington went on Ariel Helwani's show on ESPN, and he shared a lot of that confrontation, aside from the 2-3 minute video that you can see on TMZ Sports, which we have on MMAjunkie. Colby shared a few things. So if you don't mind, Josh, please play cut number 1. Colby's trying to get his crab legs. He's chilling. He's chillaxing. And then all of a sudden he says he's walked up.
Staying over at the dump, the Palms, and I'm waiting in the buffet line, Ariel. I'm just trying to get some crab legs. Can the man get some crab legs? Can the man, the champ, get some crab legs in peace? And all of a sudden, low energy Marty comes, that terrorist rat Ali comes, and some other Sasquatch, and then they start pushing and swinging and putting innocent kids' lives in danger, and a pregnant lady. There's a pregnant lady. She's screaming, "I'm pregnant! Stop this!" And Ali's still pushing, trying to make a scene. Usman's still trying to scream at me, "Oh, I'm going to get you." And his little Sasquatch is like throwing punches at my friend and is trying to punch me. And it's a complete joke. I can't believe that, they allow that in Vegas, and just a bunch of filthy animals.
Now, his friend got caught. Apparently, maybe he may have taken a punch or two. But Colby says he came out of it pretty clean. He says he's got cat-like reflexes. He talks about that in cut number 2.
He tried to swing at me, but, I got cat-like reflexes, so obviously he's not going to hit me. He's slow as a fucking turtle.
Look, I'm glad no one got severely hurt, because it did spill over into the buffet line where there was the general public. Colby's not making that part up. Look, he's got his shtick or whatever, and sometimes he'll fluff a piece up here and there, exaggerate. But you could hear some people saying, hey, there's a pregnant lady over here, So another guy's yelling, take it to the octagon, A few other people are yelling, security. That should never have happened. These fighters are very dangerous human beings. They're very precise with what they do, with their attacks, their strikes. And if one guy, can evade a strike, that doesn't mean that the person next to him can't get hit. I mean, someone can really, really get hurt. So we don't want that. I'm a drama queen. I like that stuff a little bit. But not where people can get hurt. Families just winding down on a Sunday, getting a buffet before they bounce out of town. Come on, that's no good, And I'm anxious to see what's going to come out of that, or if they're just going to, let it go. Sometimes Dana White will say it's the fight game, man, but that's a little bit more than the fight game.
At the end of the day, you got to think Colby. I mean, what incentive is there for him to change any of his behavior? I mean, he went to Vegas, he did his thing, he kind of overshadowed the weekend. He gets his title shot. I wish I had checked his Instagram and Twitter numbers before the weekend, but you got to figure it's a successful weekend. So, a lot of people saying he's going too far, he's going over the line. I mean, that near brawl. But at the end of the day, what downside is there for him doing what he's doing? Well,
he got the title shot, which is the big thing, right? He was able to get his sit down with Dana, not at the UFC offices, how a proper sit down takes place. He was able to, I guess, step aside from that blackjack table and speak for a few minutes with the UFC president, who he says has been unavailable on previous attempts. But again, the main thing was the title shot, because even Dana reiterated, even after that incident at the Palms or him coming to the open workouts, the result of the fight doesn't look like they're going to go the route of a rematch for Tyron Woodley, and it looks like Colby is going to get the fight. The only thing I would say, Josh, is he just can't step foot into the Palms, and he talks about that. Let's do back-to-back cuts there. 6 and 7, please. 5 and 6, please.
That's my knowledge. I really don't know. I had to get out of there right away. They banned me from the Palms property for doing absolutely nothing. Just sitting there saying, "Hey, man, we're professionals. I'm going to beat your ass in the cage, man. I'm not going to press charges on you, because the real fucking beating and punishment for you is when we get in that octagon. I don't want your ass deported back to Nigeria." So, I don't know if anybody got hurt. I hope not. I feel for the pregnant lady, and I feel for the kids. It's sad. Marty tries to be this, dad figure and this nice guy and this baby face, but why would you go put innocent people's and children, more importantly, their lives in danger? It's very piss poor, and, he's a fake fraud. Because of this incident, I'm banned from Palms property for the rest of my life.
I would say that's the negative, Josh. You just can't step foot into the Palms. And, here's the thing.
Yeah, but he's not banned from actually fighting there. I mean, he gambles somewhere else.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it doesn't specify where he can or can't, but I'm sure the UFC could just avoid booking him for a future show at the Palms. Because so what a lot of people don't know is the Stations Casino owners, which are the Fertitta brothers who used to own the UFC, they actually acquired the Palms. It's not called the Palm Station or anything like that, but they did acquire the Palms, and they've renovated it, and it looks really, really cool. And they're gonna have the world's biggest pool come this summer, so it's supposed to be a kick-ass spot. And they're starting to bring back some MMA to that area. But you're right, Josh. I guess he could find a way to appear on a card. But, Colby Covington's now a pay-per-view guy, and the Palms doesn't really, deal with – that's more of a fight night type of card or whatever. So unless he's the headliner, I don't see how that will be a hiccup. He just basically can't ever go to the Palm. He can't have his after party at the Palms. He can't go to somebody's a concert at the Palms or whatever. If it's his favorite steakhouse at the Palms, which they have pretty good fine dining there, he just can't do that. But I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be all right. What are you gonna do? These things really do happen in MMA. Gus Johnson was right. It's a sport that just has a lot of testosterone flowing, not just on fight night, man. A lot of these people, a lot of these fighters just cannot stand the sight of another person that they've had either a fight with in the past, or they're about to have a fight with, or maybe you fought my homie, or maybe you just said something that a lot of these guys are firecrackers, you know, and just a stare is enough. Most of us human beings can give a stare and then look away, whether we're driving in our cars, somebody cut you off, other people escalate it to some honking, other people start pointing, hey, get off at the next exit or at the next driveway, and it's on. These fighters, man, at any moment, you know, they can go from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk. We definitely
George,
don't want that, but it happens. Go ahead.
Do we not want that, though? I mean, I know the UFC at least has to be happy to some degree. I mean, think about the footage they have. Kamaru leaves the cage right after the win. Him and Colby go at it. The next day, they're going at it.
Yeah.
On social media, they're still going at it. I mean, not the embeddeds, but, you know, the hype videos that they put up leading up to the fight. I mean, they used the Conor bus incident, man. You know they're going to use this stuff, and you know they're happy. They're happy to have the footage. I mean, look, it's riding a line. I mean, someone could have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
You know, a pregnant woman, there were kids around it. It's on that line. But, I mean, think back like John Jones in D.C. knocking over stages or whatever and spilling into the crowd. Conor and Habib. Now this. I mean, it's...
Well, the UFC finds a way to always make this work, for sure. But when it happens, I think they just accept it, that it's part of the game. But I don't think they want it because one day someone really, really is going to get seriously hurt. And look, going back to the Brooklyn incident, I mean, this affected Rose so much that she came out of that fight pretty healthy. Yet it'll be over a year before she fights again because she had it was traumatic for her. You know what I mean? I think Ray Borg had glass in his eye. I mean, that could have been a little bit more serious. You know how sensitive that is. So yeah, usually we've been pretty lucky in that nobody has gotten seriously hurt. I think some kid tried to sue either the Diaz brothers or Conor McGregor once for the bottle throwing incident. He may have gotten paid. I don't know that it was that much, but again, we just don't want it to get to that point. I think there's certain spots where it can happen, and it will happen, but in a buffet line, no, that's just not the spot. Hi. Welcome, Gus.
The man some crab legs.
That's all he wanted. All he wanted was crab legs, man. When this fight might take place, I don't know. A lot of it's gonna have to do with Usman and his recovery from the fracture that he had in his foot. Usman was able to fight a whole 5 rounds. I'm sure he was shot up legally, but still coming out of that, when you have to fight Tyron Woodley for 25 minutes, he may have damaged that further. He just didn't feel it. Apparently he was wearing a walking boot pre-fight and post-fight. So we'll need that fine gentleman to get healthy, and then him and Colby will, I think they'll do the dance sometime this summer. I think that's fair because we're already in March. We're already kind of getting to the beginning of spring. It's not the beginning of the year anymore. It's not January or February. It's March. And pretty soon schools are going to be, you know, out on their spring breaks, and we're going to start getting those invitations for our friends' kids' graduations or whatever, relatives' graduations, and then it's on, man. So summer's not that far away. In fact, we'll be touching on that a little bit later on the show. All right. Want to welcome Goes to the show. We've been talking a little bit about Colby and what went down at the Palms, and that might be the only detriment to his weekend. Well, it was more like a week that he was here in Vegas. He can no longer step foot in the Palms. He can no longer get them crab legs. But what he did get was a title shot.
Well, when you think about everything that he's gone through and this, what we all call the shtick, yeah, it's probably put him in some bad positions. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, he's going to get his way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if he gets his way and he gets paid the way he wants to get paid, then I guess it was worth it, right?
I think so.
How scary is that?
Well, it's been a work in progress. all that work got him to these big fights that eventually got him. He fought Damian Maia. He fought Rafael dos Anjos. But was it worth it? Hell yeah. He became an interim champ. He went to the White House, for crying out loud. He became the #1 guy. Just that nasal surgery came at the wrong time. But even though he didn't get this shot, maybe he would have been the one that unseated Woodley. He does get a shot. It's just everything seems to be running about 9 months later than it should have, at least according to like the timeline in my head. Because if he fought in June and became the interim champ, he could have possibly won the title in September. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if he would have beaten Woodley or not. But now he'll probably get Usman sometime in July is my guess, or August, whenever Usman's ready to go. So maybe even closer to a year is what it cost him.
Let me ask you guys this, you and Josh. We saw the manner in which Tyron Woodley lost that fight. Is it or is it not probably the way Colby would have fought Tyron Woodley? And the question is, could Tyron Woodley have defended Colby Covington the way, I mean, he wasn't able to defend Usman, but could Covington have done what Usman did, or is Usman on a different level when it comes to that?
That's a great question, because Woodley, from what I've heard in the interviews that he's had, whether it's post-fight press conference or any other media he's done, there's a little bit of him where it just he was off, is what he's saying. Now, what he doesn't specify is if that was due to Usman or if he was just off, because he does say at some point maybe it was stuff outside in my personal life. Maybe he was doing too many things, which in the past he said, nope, I can handle it all. I was built for this. But that album that he said he finished a long time ago, which it didn't affect his camp, yet he was promoting it because I think it was supposed to drop yesterday or today or something like that. I mean, there had to have been some time that he gave to that. You know what I mean? There had to have been some interviews in the hip-hop world that he had to give for that, because that's what you do to give it proper promotion. So between that, maybe a audition, he's also trying to do the movies or whatever, just anything that takes you away from the fight. Maybe it affected him mentally. Maybe that's why mentally he just wasn't there. Maybe he was overthinking it. Who knows? So maybe Colby would have been able to become a champion because it was just Woodley's off night, or maybe Usman was so successful early on that maybe he just got into Woodley's head, between rounds 1 and 2, and at that point Woodley convinced himself that it wasn't going to be his night. Who knows? Only Woodley can answer those specific questions, and he'll answer them. He's usually very, very honest when you do ask him. I've never really known him too much to bullshit. The only thing he'll try is to get his, but once the fight is set, once the fight has happened, he's usually very honest, man. He'll reference the time, I got knocked the fuck out by Nate Marquardt, blah, blah, blah. So I look forward to having him on the show sometime so that we can ask him all these questions. Now, here's another thing. I didn't know about this until Josh came up with this. Todd Gurley from the Rams was at the fights.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was apparently doing some heckling. So we can go back to back on 9 and 10, and Colby talks a little bit about that experience as well.
There's so many people that want my head, at the fights. I had Todd Gurley front row and his crew fucking heckling at me, talking shit. They met, fuck Donald Trump, fuck you, Colby, you're going to get your ass kicked next fight, blah, blah, blah. And just the fans, and the people at all the casinos, man, I'm too high risk, I'm too high profile now, and being Donald Trump's favorite fighter is a big liability for me. So, I'm just going to be staying indoors, getting ready for this fight. A bunch of fans were like, that's Todd Gurley. I was sitting front row, with my security guards, and 4 seats down, there was, my security and a bunch of fans. Oh, that's Todd Gurley and his crew, So, they were heckling me, talking shit, saying some things. Oh, we're going to fuck you up, Colby. That's why they brought like 10 cops right in front of me, right outside the cage, because they were making sure that nothing went down in the crowd.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I could see Colby, but it looked like he was just piping up when the action was not to his liking. He said he was going to do that. He practiced a little bit on this set here. It looked like he was just an animated fan. The only difference being, he really does have next to the 2 men that were in that cage. But fans are allowed to boo or cheer or say what they want. They paid for their ticket. As long as you're not, what they say, as long as you're not yelling fire in a crowded theater, or in this case, an arena, then I think that's just your right, you know. I mean, yeah, with certain limits, but it shocked me to hear Gurley say what he was going to say. Now, was Gurley saying with a smile? Was Gurley playing around? I don't know because I wasn't there. But that was pretty interesting. I love always finding out about new celebrities, athletes, entertainers, musicians, whatever, of any kind, take an interest in that sport. Man, he's one of the best, if not the best running back in the game right now. So really, really cool to hear him be a fan and kind of know who's who, you know, and who to hate on.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of the old school ones? Kevin James, Chuck Zito. Who are some of the people like
Cindy Crawford back in the day, but
Wayne Gretzky.
You know who's a big fan too? I keep forgetting is the South African model actress Charlize Theron. Suppose he's pretty big fan. Leonardo DiCaprio is a pretty big fan. I think he was at the Conor Habib fight, but that dude knows how to go, you know, really, really deep undercover. Like he wears the hat and the glasses very well, and I think he's not flashy. Mm-hmm. So he would just kind of look like maybe a surfer kid wearing glasses indoors or whatever. But apparently he's gotten away with it. I think Michael Jackson even got in there once. And
Michael Jackson?
Yeah. Prior to him passing away, I think he was in there as well. They just kind of guide you through a certain door. You know, the arena gets dark at certain times. Mm-hmm. And then once you're there, yeah, some people around you might know. But if you're way up in the rafters, you would have no idea. All right, we're going to take a break. You are listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Fight Nation Channel TV. Well, I got Mike Rust. When we come back, I think we're going to be hearing from Michael J. White. He is in a movie called Triple Threat, along with Tiger Chen and Tony Jaa and Michael Bisping. And that movie is a few weeks away from release in theaters and then VOD. So we'll talk to him about that when we come back. MLB Network Radio Spring Training Tour continues right now as Tyler Kepner and Darren Sutton visit the Oakland Athletics camp. Hear interviews with manager Bob Melvin, general manager David Frost, and more, only on MLB Network Radio Series 209, XM 89, and streaming on your phone and at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, as we wait for our guest to call in, wanted to go over a Twitter beef, because I want to move on from buffet line beefs to Twitter beefs. Two guys that I like, too. Kind of sucks. Hope they hash it out and have a beer one day. Which I think they will. But, boy, they were some insults are flying. Check this out. Somebody named @Canadian Bowler, that's the Twitter handle. He goes by Daryl Fitzgerald. He said, what do you guys think of Mark Goddard and his constant standing up of Woodley Usman and Dean's allowing Jones Smith grind it out? John Anik responds by saying he was tagged along with Luke Thomas. He says, yes, wildly inconsistent, and Usman was working his ass off. That's not too bad. That's just somebody offering their opinion. Wildly inconsistent, I guess it depends on how you take it. But that's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, he's just saying what he felt. Mark Goddard responds by saying, the only thing wildly inconsistent is your and your co-com's recollection and observation of actual events. I'll save my side for later. Co-coms is co-commentators. So that's pretty funny. By then, I'm sure Mark Goddard has heard the criticism, and he's probably gone back to look at the Usman and Woodley fight. Remember, Herb Dean did Askren and Lawler. Mark Goddard did Woodley and Usman, and then the main event was done by Herb Dean.
I was on the verge of sneezing.
Sneezing? Okay, I was wondering.
I was making a dumb face. All right. He misinterpreted everything, right? Looking back now, what I think Goddard thought Anik said was it was inconsistency in that fight. What Anik meant was there was inconsistency between what one ref would call in one fight and another and another. Correct? Is that where we're at? So technically, yes, it's a beef, but I think it was more of a misunderstanding more than anything, correct?
Correct. And here's the other misunderstanding. When he says co-coms, I think he meant Dominic. Dominic Cruz made a reference to the referee just not knowing wrestling. That, I think, was the one that must have stung the most. And he didn't call Dominic Cruz out by name. He just said co-coms. And I don't believe it was Rogan. I mean, Rogan obviously gives his opinions as well. But everybody is just giving their opinion. And you can't really... You can't dismiss them, man. Dominic's been a world champion and one of the top analysts in the game. Rogan is an accomplished martial artist in being a Taekwondo black belt and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, gi or no gi. And just the 20-plus years of commentating at high levels. And then John Anik, same. He's put in his time with boxing and mixed martial arts. It's just their opinion. But I think that's the one that stung. That's what I think. So now they go on, and John says, I always try to be respectful. We were just calling it like we see it too. But there is an arrogance with which you deal with the fighters, commentators, and many in this sport, and I find it off-putting. One man's take, and I'm sure you'll give yours for everyone to hear. And I'm quite sure you'll give everyone yours for everyone to hear. So he's already saying, hey Twitterverse, don't worry, Mark Goddard is going to chime in here at any moment, which kind of puts the pressure on. Do you do it? Because this guy just predicted you were going to do it, or said you were, or told, almost baited you. So he's got something to think about here. But this is when it starts calming down a little bit, and I'm trying to follow along here, but I'm just going to skip to the end. Andy calmed down and said, hey, listen, man, that's my bad. I respect you as a father, a husband. I didn't mean to insult you. And the other one says 100% echoed. So I think they're cool. I think they both realized. They probably both got texts from others saying, calm down. Like
the heat of the moment. So.
Right. You guys said what you needed to say, but stop it before you guys really, really turn into teenagers that have 20 responses back and forth. I think you're afforded one, maybe two, and someone either zings you or maybe it's a draw, and then you just move on. These are top-notch professionals in the sport, and you could see one of Goddard's last tweets was actually a shout-out to Big John McCarthy, and I'm sure Big John was probably the one saying, Mark, that's it, you know, like, you're one of the best damn guys at your craft, and you made your decision. You know, that's it. People are just going to see it another way, and it's the goddamn truth.
Have you talked to Mark Goddard at all?
No, I've only had interactions with him on DM on Twitter, when I'll just say, hey, that was awesome reffing. Like, there's just some fights where you go, wow, like, great job, you know, because I think it's really a thankless occupation. They all get slammed for the controversy, but rarely do they get, you know, that fist bump. Hey, man, you did your job. You went out there and did your job. But I think there's just some fights where they're very, very exceptional when they could have jumped in and they didn't, and then they're rewarded by seeing the fighter that they thought was done comes back, and so now we're treated to an even more special fight because the tide turns, and then whatever result happens. But we get to see a little bit more out of that fighter, and that's just a split-second decision that you make, based off, again, keeping calm, taking in all the data. That's why, notice, if somebody, let's say Lawler and Askren, I'll use them again, and the ref's Herb Dean. If Lawler just punches Askren, and Askren either falls or is wobbled, watch the ref. All they're watching is the eyes of the fighter that's just been hurt. All right? Robbie Lawler could pull out a gun if he wants to, and the ref wouldn't even see it because he's that focused on Askren. That's where their attention is until they start coming out of that fog, and once they do, then they start looking more at both fighters in the action. But that's where they're really, really concentrated because they know the fight could end with a subsequent shot, and they want to make sure that they get in there at the right time and hammer that person.
Look, man, every referee has their own style and their own personality. If this were like the UFC video game where you see their stats for takedowns, punches, kicks, all that, they would have their own as well. They all have their own different style. It's all within the rules, but some guys will stand you up quicker, some won't. We'd be fools to think that they all call it all the way across the board. But the one thing I know about Jon Anik is he's just a stand-up guy. And I couldn't see a scenario where he, at the very least, you wouldn't get agree to disagree or something out of him.
Right.
He's not like a punk or anything like that.
Yeah, he's not trying to
reasonable.
punk anybody. He's not trying to get the last word. I think he's very content with just saying, you know, agree, like you said, agree to disagree, or that's the way you see it, respect, hashtag, whatever. Go to bed, be a dad, be a husband. That's it, man. And I don't think he'll carry it over, like, in future fights, say anything like, there goes old Goddard again. Like, he really compartmentalizes things, and that says a lot about John's character. There's a lot of other people in this sport that would do it, maybe even myself included, where I'm like, what the motherfucker say? Can't wait to zing somebody back. But not Jon Anik. He really calls it as he sees it. On
Goddard's side, and I completely understand this, it's really tough to take criticism when there's only a few people that can walk in your shoes, right? Like, if you haven't done the job, to have somebody criticize you is very, very difficult. Like, I've never played professional football, but I played football. You know, I'm not a complete dipshit. I don't think I've really ever done anything in my life that I could say, oh, yeah, that's just like MMA refereeing. Well, what could I have done that was anything like that? So I can understand that when... But you also have to understand that that's probably when you're the most emotional, is right after a fight. So maybe stay off Twitter till the next day or whatever. You have to figure yourself out, right? But I'm glad that it all kind of ended peacefully, because I don't know Mark very well. I've only talked to him one time, I think, after an event.
Oh, really?
But he seems like
I'd like to meet
pretty
him.
cool guy.
He looks like he would be a really
You have to, right? If you're
cool
going to be a ref, like, you have to have some sort of cool demeanor and understanding, because you're going to be in the most stressful situations. But I'm glad it all ended well, because they both seem like really cool cats.
I caught the beginning of Dan Hardy and Mark Goddard's podcast. They started one recently, and I think they're on episode 2 or 3. And Goddard is, I don't know if quirky's the right word, but he's, well, for one, I just find him very funny, very witty But you can just tell there's certain things that can get on his nerves quickly. And sometimes it's just the way people eat. I was catching the beginning of a recent show that they had, and he said his travels, especially in his travels, the way some people consume their food in China, I think he was saying. And I was laughing my ass off, and so was Dan Hardy. And I want to finish the episode. I didn't get a chance to finish it. But you can just tell he can be, his personality can be a little bit bizarre, where there's just certain things that really, really piss him off, especially on flights. People tapping their legs or whatever. Check it out. I think you'll like it. It's worth, any podcast I think is worth a couple listens, and then it's up to you whether you want to stay with it or not. But I'm sure Mark will probably address a lot of the things that happen in some fights, and I want to go in there and see if he addresses this one. But what you can tell is that Goddard is affected by negativity and people's comments. Other refs just stay off Twitter, or they go in there every once in a while, or they just take it and play with it or whatever. But I think Goddard every once in a while will strike back like a cobra and let you have it.
Understandable.
So that's and he self-admittedly says it. All right, let's take this quick call. Who do we have here?
We got Kevin in Chicago.
What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Just got a real quick point to make. Did Ali Abaziz, I heard he banned the fighters from giving interviews to MMA Junkie because Morocco or someone wrote a bad piece about him, or didn't give him put him in a bad light. Is that true?
Where'd you hear that?
I just heard, I forget where I heard it, but I heard that Cody Garbrandt and Zabit didn't give interviews to MMA Junkie.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah, you're right. They did not give interviews to MMA Junkie, but that actually wasn't the reason. It's just something I don't want to discuss right now, but I can tell you that my man Morocco is not the reason.
What do you think of that?
All right, that's it. All right.
Left.
Listen, I want to continue with the Twitter brief talk because there was another one in pro wrestling, except a former champion from mixed martial arts was involved in this one. So I want to touch on that one a little bit, and I'll tell you about it when we come back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
everything I could to respect this business. I worked my ass off, and I exceeded every expectation. I poured my heart out and sacrificed my body for your entertainment. And what'd you do, huh? You booed me out the Staples Center in Los Angeles, my home. You cheered for Becky while I'm out here working my ass off to entertain you. Well, you know what? No, I am done pretending. I am no longer here to entertain you. I would break Charlotte and Becky's noses if I so much as sneezed in their direction, and you know it.
They were abducted by aliens and instantly returned for raiding all their snacks. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Get on Ronda. If that's real, get on Ronda. She's flexing the MMA muscle, letting them know, hey, look, this is, we're pretending here a little bit. I mean, it's athleticism, and people are really getting bruised up and lumped up, and, you know, a lot of these moves definitely hurt. Much respect to that, that career.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say pre-scripted. I know Bully Ray does not like fake. You know that word. That's their F word.
That's the F word.
So definitely not going to disrespect that. But what I don't know is every time I watch this, because I'm not deep into this sport,
mm-hmm.
What I don't know is if I go, wow, Ronda really laid into him, and then all of a sudden someone taps me on the shoulder and goes, you big dummy, that was just a shoot. Because you can never tell. But then other people go, no, that's the real thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just know. I know I teased it before the commercial that there was a Twitter beef. And, of course, you know now it's Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. But it's a pretty huge news in sports entertainment and combat sports. And Ronda's a former champ. We got much love for her. We hope that she does well. I'm going to let Goes and Josh talk a little bit more about what we can say first, Goes, and then we'll see if Josh can take the reins a little bit on this Twitter beef that they had.
Here's what I know, because we were there. Royal Rumble, Becky Lynch wins.
Mm-hmm.
Means she gets a shot at Ronda Rousey's title. But I guess she had an injury, and now she's not in that fight. And I think it's Charlotte now, right? Josh, am I correct?
Charlotte versus Becky?
Well, yeah, right now it's Charlotte against Becky for the vacated. Oh, no, they changed it, though. They announced that on Raw yesterday. And then they tweaked it. I think now it's Charlotte against Becky, and the winner, I believe, is going to face Ronda at Mania. But what's more interesting than that, I mean, that audio you heard from Ronda coming out of the break was her turning heel on Raw. And the whole storyline / Twitter beef is blurring a lot of lines. And, I mean, after Ronda finished up her promo, which was definitely the best one she's given because it actually seemed like real and coming from the heart, not scripted, she hits Becky pretty damn hard and puts her in a really stiff-looking armbar. So they're blurring the lines, and I think it's an intriguing storyline because it's taking fans like me who, you know, obviously everyone knows now it's scripted, but it's making people wonder what's real and what's not. I mean, Ronda's dropping Becky Lynch's real name. Becky Lynch is putting out a picture of her armbar with Travis Brown's face superimposed, calling it a giant dick. So, I mean, there's blurring lines, there's a lot of hurt feelings, and I'm intrigued in this. And I think Ronda might have had her feathers ruffled a little bit.
I think so. And Ronda, just from the little interactions we've ever had, she's kind of serious, and she doesn't seem like the type of person that likes to get her balls busted. Let alone in front of millions and millions of people. We've seen looking in the past, like people that were tag team wrestlers, partners, and they hated each other the whole time. We didn't know, you know, or they had these shoot videos. You go back and you go, what? They didn't get along. These people they actually hated each other, and they had a real feud. Like, so what do you think, Josh? Is this an actual feud, or are they just really good at tricking us?
I think there's some legit beef there. I mean, you know, I don't want to read all the tweets, but again, like, Ronda Rousey basically called Becky Lynch's armbar fake, and then Becky Lynch shot back, you know, instead.
Is that what started it?
No, I mean, it's been going on for quite a while, but it's escalated now. Recently.
All I see is tweet about it, bitch. Tweet about it, bitch, is what she says to Becky. Then you got to go to an Instagram link. I'm trying to see where, like, the real vitriol
I mean,
is.
Ronda says Rebecca Quinn, I don't care what the script says. I'm beating the living shit out of you the next time I see you. So, I mean, that's acknowledging there's a script.
Gotcha.
I mean, so, again, it's crossing a lot of lines in that Becky tweet with Travis Brown. Ronda basically says Becky Lynch, because her gimmick is the man, she basically wishes she had a dick. So then Becky Lynch writes back, superimposing Travis Brown's face on the armbar, which Ronda says looks fake. So, again, a lot of lines being crossed. And, you know, Ronda I don't want to say sensitive, but, she's at times been a little mentally sensitive with certain things. So, it seems like the social media aspect is crossing some lines, blurring some lines.
There are certain things that, say, a Conor McGregor can do and not get in trouble for that somebody else could do and get in trouble for. I know Ronda Rousey's kind of taken WWE by storm. Is she kind of in that realm where she can get away with a few things? Like, saying something is, forget about the script. Like, pro wrestlers take that very seriously. You can't say things like that. Can she get away with that because she's Ronda Rousey and because she's taken over WWE, or is that something that even she would get a slap on the wrist for?
I mean, again, to a degree, all the superstars get favorable or more beneficial treatment. I mean, Brock Lesnar works half as much, a quarter as much as everyone, and makes more money, and he could get away with certain things. I mean, there was a video released, George and Goes, where after Brock's WrestleMania match against Roman Reigns, he literally throws the belt at Vince McMahon. Throws the belt at the guy. Titus O'Neil grabs Vince McMahon by the arm one night so he could let Stephanie McMahon walk first. Titus O'Neil got suspended. Brock Lesnar tosses the belt at Vince. There was no suspension, no fine, no nothing. So, sure, I mean, the bigger stars, look at me in Sirius XM. I mean, I'm making 8 figures from Marissa. She lets me take as many days off as I want. When you're a big star, you get the beneficial treatment. It is what it is.
So you're like our Brock Lesnar.
I mean, basically, I'm honestly here because I want to be, not because I have. No, but I mean, in all seriousness, that's just how it is. But it's like that in any sport. Look at Conor in the UFC, Brock and Ronda in the WWE. I mean, it's how it is. The big stars get the good treatment. They move in literal UFC cards for John Jones. That's just it is what it is.
Becky was at the fights, by the way. She was at UFC 235. She also did she had I guess a signing or something like that at Westgate. I bet you it was packed. She's popular, dude. Becky Lynch, I think, is right up there with Charlotte, and I think those two are just a little bit more popular than Ronda in pro wrestling. I think they all have a ton of fans, but it looks like there's still the hardcore wrestling fan that is saying, Ronda, you'll get there, but take it easy. These other girls have been putting in the work. We're going to cheer loudest for her. Mm-hmm. And but I don't think Ronda's got that kind of time. I don't think Ronda signed a 10-year contract or anything. I think she wants to go in there, fulfill a dream, do well, have fun, help the WWE, help herself out, make some money. But I think she really wants to just be a mom at some point and then be done with it. So
movies.
Everything's been expedited for her. You know what I mean? And that's why she got to a title pretty damn quick. And a lot of these other girls, I think, have been resentful. That's kind of what I've been able to gather when I do tune in to Busted Open. We have a different schedule now, so before I caught them a little bit more frequently, but a lot of times they're on the way home from work because they also replay after us.
Does she do house shows?
Ronda, yeah.
She does do house shows?
Not a lot, but I've seen it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've seen...
Because you still need to get the work in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of these cities are big cities, that are sold out, so they're big arenas. But yeah, I would imagine that is the case. All right,
you listen to that promo. Oh, sorry, George. I was just gonna say, you listen to that promo. She talks about all the work she's putting in and still getting booed. A lot of that promo seemed to come from the heart to a degree.
Yeah, she went to the actual wrestling schools, and she's not just showing up. That's for sure. She's learning how to take falls and bumps and work the mics. Everything she's ever invested her time in, she's always done well. She's always gone, full board. All right, that's the top of the hour break. We still got 1 hour to go, and we're hoping to catch up with Ray Cooper III in the second hour. Stay tuned. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Call in. Speak to us. 877-FIGHT-93.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
All right, fool. You ready?
Who are you talking to? Josh isn't going to take part in this, is
I
he?
was talking to you.
Oh.
Don't play dumb. Today's hashtag daily debate question for at MMA Junkie Radio. Which fight do you think is shaping up to be the main event for hashtag UFC 239, which is on International Fight Week, taking place on July 6th? Got about 4 months to go, but these fighters that have been fighting or about to fight, they're going to hit that cycle, and if they come away healthy, they may be, in line for this. So remember that's what the UFC tries to do in terms of having their biggest show of the year. It's not always guaranteed, but that's usually what they gun for. So these are the big guns. Choices: Cormier versus Lesnar, Jones versus Santos, Usman versus Covington. Remember I was talking about that earlier. And this one's kind of like a fill in the blank. Conor McGregor's return. That could be anybody. Could be Cerrone, could be Nurmagomedov, it could be anybody. All right, goes. What do you think is shaping up to be the main event?
Well, I would say Conor McGregor. However, the UFC seems to have this new stance that unless you're a title holder, you ain't going to be in the main event.
Right.
And I don't see him fighting Khabib, so I'm going to throw that out the window. I feel like Cormier probably won't be ready by then.
Still?
So, I think.
The back injury?
Yeah, so I'm
Didn't
going
he take a 2-hour nap and fight Derek Lewis? It all went away? Now it's
true.
back after a sneeze or what?
That was one hell of a sneeze, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Usman and Covington. It seems like Covington really got this thing heated, and the second it becomes just on paper official, I think he's really going to turn it up, and I think it's going to blow up. So I'm going to pick that fight.
Okay. I'm going to go with Cormier and Lesnar because the timing's right. WrestleMania is in early April.
Okay.
And then I know that the WWE Sky, I don't know it, I'm not a hardcore. I think they don't they have like a Survivor Series sometimes in November. It used to be around Thanksgiving. There's a SummerSlam, but I'm not sure when that is. That's the only thing that might scare me off. But for sure, he'll clear WrestleMania, and he could still do a couple Raws and maybe even one more pay-per-view if he had to, and then make it to July 6th. But it's the perfect time to start a camp. Because remember, he's got to get to 265 for one. 2, and I hope he's been doing this already. He has to make sure that any supplements that he's taken are on board with the UFC's testing through USADA.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to get in shape because it is a title fight against, different fight muscles.
MMA shape.
MMA shape, exactly. A little bit of media. I'm sure they might hit a couple cities or whatever. So I just think the timing says this is when Cormier and Lesnar will be good to go. And I think Cormier will have the best attention. Doctors, I think there's even time for a minor surgery. Something, man, that gets this guy in there because this could be the biggest payday ever. And that's really the only reason to extend your self-imposed retirement is that Lesnar fight. Jones and Cormier aren't even thinking about each other anymore. And Cormier will only do Miocic if Lesnar can't go. But even then, I think Cormier could retire right now and just say, ESPN, I'm available. I'm your guy, and start becoming a broadcaster and sticking to coaching, being a dad, and being a husband.
But hasn't the UFC shown in the past that they go with the hot ticket? What's hot right now? And isn't Usman and Colby Covington popping?
Usman beat up Tyron Woodley pretty good. But did he become a star? See, Woodley and Covington have been going at it for a year.
I'm going to say a star.
Maybe
not a
more.
mega star. Not a superstar.
Right.
But a star, yes.
See, I don't think so. I think he's got work to do. I think it'll come with the title defenses. And then maybe. I think that could be a great co-main event. And also, let it be known that if the UFC does have that policy, you got to leave the unicorn alone. If McGregor really does want to come back and he's not fighting for a title, and it's Cowboy or Ferguson or Nate or whoever, just let him do it. You know what I mean? I don't know that they could all of a sudden stick to these rules of this is how we do things. They've broken many of their rules. Remember before they used to say the heavier, if they have 2 title fights, the heavier weight class always goes last. They've broken that one before. They've broken committing to an interim title holder and then having it be somebody else. They did that with Tony Ferguson. He was on the same card as Habib and Conor. He should have been fighting Habib that night. Instead, he fought Anthony Pettis. So they've broken a lot of their many little rules that they have. It's not like they have some constitution that they're always pointing to, you know. So I would say really that is kind of what I think would probably happen, depending on who they want Conor McGregor to dance with, because Habib really does sound like he's not coming back till October, November, whatever. So that's why I'm going with Cormier and Lesnar.
Lucky for you, we have a tiebreaker.
Was that Jumbo Josh?
Junkie Nation.
Junkie Nation. All right. It was close, goes. 35% said Conor McGregor's return. 32% said Cormier versus Lesnar. 20% said Usman versus Covington. 12% said Jones versus Santos. Jones and
Thanks
Santos
a lot, Junkie Nation.
didn't get much love. They came in 4th place, and that was over 2,000 votes that came in. So thanks to Junkie Nation, readers of the site, listeners of the show for weighing in. What do you think, Jumbo Josh?
I sure hope it's Conor. And I hope it's Conor Cowboy, and I hope it's headlined.
International Fight Week?
Card. Yeah, absolutely.
Anything Conor would be the
come on,
bigger fight.
they moved the card for John Jones. They've done crazier main events. I know there's not a belt on the line, but, I mean, come on.
And every champion would love to be the one that co-main events because they will get a piece of that pay-per-view.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I think Usman Covington, hopefully they could do that a little bit sooner.
But why Conor? I thought about this. Why Conor Cowboy? I know it's a fun fight to watch, but they have beef, but I don't think it's anything where, oh my God, you got to keep these two out of the same room.
Because they're going to talk smack.
I think they could ride an elevator together and laugh a little bit. I know that they both could escalate, but I don't think it's like that. I think Diaz and McGregor can't ride in an elevator together. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that at some point, cash in on that one. Get that one done, for crying out loud.
True.
All right.
I just like that fight because either way, it's a win-win. It either puts, because if Conor wins, he's back in the title picture. You know that's going to happen. UFC definitely wants
Have you
to
beat
get a fight
Cerrone?
on, but I think so. But
he's trailing. He's trailing Ferguson. He's trailing Iaquinta. Still got Holloway, Poirier to figure out. He's in there only because of his popularity, but not because he will have earned it. I just beating Cerrone is a respectful win, but Cerrone hasn't been a lightweight for many years, and that I don't know that gets you the title shot. It just puts you back in the win column.
It does when you sell the pay-per-views that Conor does.
Yeah, you're right. All right, I'm hearing we have some calls. Who do we got?
Let's go to Dave in Detroit. What's
up, Dave? How you doing?
Hey, fellas, how are you tonight? You doing all right?
Yeah, good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Like I was just telling the screener guy, being here in Michigan and stuff, we really don't get a whole lot of, UFC action, but we have, Chicago right down the street. So I think that's in June or something like that. So, with the way John Jones was talking, wanting to fight 4 times this year, and my question to you guys is, do you think that would be the one for Thiago Santos versus John Jones? And now that you're talking about it, I think Usman and Covington would be a fantastic addition to that card. Chicago's a huge market, a lot of money over there. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Right.
And then also with you guys saying in July, Cormier and Brock, oh my God, and then Cormier and Cowboy, or, Cowboy and Conor. Fantastic idea. That sounds great. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the perfect one, here's a few fight cards that were announced over the weekend. They're going to Rochester on May 18th. That's where John Jones is from. He's from that area, except it's just an ESPN Plus card. It's called ESPN Plus 9. So that would have been perfect for John Jones. But, again, it's not even big ESPN, and John Jones is just a pay-per-view guy. So if you're asking me to make sense out of it, UFC 237 seems to be pretty much filling up, and I think you got your main event of Namajunas and Andrade, and your co-main with Aldo versus Volkanovski, and everything else after that is just noise. All right, UFC 238 on June 8th at the United Center. I think that could be John Jones. I think it could also be Cejudo versus Dillashaw, but I think it could be Jones if he wants it, because Usman's the one walking around with a boot. He was walking around with a boot before the fight, and he was walking around with one after the fight, whereas I didn't see John Jones having any problems walking. And John Jones is the one that says, I want to be busy, I want to fight 4 times this year. So June 8th kind of puts him on, that type of trajectory. If we count December 29th technically as a 2019 fight. Depends how you interpret it. If he really wants the 4th fight, then technically June 8th would only be his 2nd. But again, it's just how you count December 29th of 2018. I would put Usman and Colby. If I had to bet, I'd say John Jones and Thiago Santos in Chicago on June 8th. Along with maybe Cejudo and Dillashaw. Because I think Cormier and Lesnar can sell on their own. They don't need the other title fight. And that's the one that would headline UFC 239 on July 6th. And then in August, they'll go somewhere. I don't know where. Sometimes it's the Honda Center in Anaheim. But they'll go somewhere. And I think that one could be like an Usman and a Covington. Now you've given Usman an additional 2 months to recover and be ready to go. So I hope that helps there with that little mini outline. And I think Cejudo and Dillashaw are both walking around ready to go as well, and that's why I see them maybe doubling up with Jones and Santos in Chicago.
Why doesn't Detroit get more love? It's a brand new arena.
They had that awesome fight in December of 2017. That's where Ngannou lit up Overeem. That's where Cejudo beat Pettis. That's where...
They didn't get Kevin Lee on it, though. It was weird.
Yeah, you're right. He had an injury, though. Something that happened. But you know what else was a great fight on that card? Oliveira versus... so that's Cowboy Oliveira versus Yancy Medeiros was an awesome fight. And that was December of 2017. Why they haven't gone back, I don't know. But
Seattle, Florida.
They're going to Wichita on Saturday. The following week, they're in London. The week after that, they're in Nashville. The week after that, they're in Philadelphia. I mean, March is just stacked. Then 1 week off, April 13th, Atlanta, Georgia, UFC 236 with Holloway and Poirier, and Adesanya versus Gastelum. 1 week later, they're in St. Petersburg, Russia, Volkov versus Overeem. On April 27th, which is 1 week later, they're in Sunrise, Florida. That's a big ESPN card, and I think that's Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa. Then 1 week later, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Then 1 week later, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for UFC 237. And then 1 week later, look, they don't take time off, Rochester. 2 weeks later, they're in Stockholm, Sweden for ESPN Plus 10. Then you got United Center 1 week later in Chicago. Greenville, South Carolina. Who do you think of South Carolina? I think there's Wonder Boy's the guy that jumps out at me. He fights Pettis in a few weeks. I could see him doing that turnaround, but I would think that the UFC would want to be on that card, and I would think Wonder Boy would want to be on that card. And just 2 more, then I'm done. Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 29th. That's where GSP fought John Fitch. That's where Brock Lesnar either debuted in the UFC or was one of his first fights.
So it was a Heath Herring fight.
Beat Heath Herring. That's June 29th. That's Dad's birthday. And then the following week at the T-Mobile Arena, UFC 239. So there you go. There's a little bit of an outline for UFC fans.
Thanks for the call, Mr. Dave. We have Kevin. He's back.
Again? What's up, Kevin?
I'm back. I don't know. I got cut off, I think. The reason I brought up Ali is because it seems like nobody's calling him out in the media. Nobody's calling him out for his deplorable behavior regarding the brawl he was in. Usman, he's a manager, and the fighter had held him back. I mean, this dude's a manager. You're supposed to be in the background making fights. What's he doing walking around like a gang member in gangs and trying to pick fights? Because this isn't the only time. He got in, remember when he got in Jimmy Rivera's face in the back after he got knocked out by Marias? He got in Jimmy Rivera's face and tried to pick a fight with him. Jimmy Rivera, the most mild-mannered guy. He's never in any controversy. And he's in the World Series of Fighting. He's getting into brawls, starting shit. I mean, what is up with this guy? He's like trying to be some gangster with his little fancy suits on, acting all hard, calling out on the Twitters. Anybody can call this guy out, man? Because I feel like he should be banned from UFC events. The way he behaves. What do you guys think?
Well, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and what we said was, yeah, obviously this is probably not good for him to do. But on the other hand, we also talked about Colby Covington and just kind of the bed that he had made for himself, similar to Conor McGregor. When you say certain things, you're going to have to expect these type of things to happen, and people are going to want to answer to those statements, and I think Ali was one of those guys that he said it. When I see you, you're going to be in trouble, and he saw him. And I think Colby knows that. He's a big boy. He knows that he said a lot of bad things, and that's just the life he lives now. I got to imagine, the UFC's probably not too happy with that. That's one of the Fertitas hotels now, the Palms. So, yeah, it's definitely not something that looks good for the sport, for all parties involved, especially coming off of what happened in Brooklyn. But, yeah, we kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, and today. And Ali, when he's been on our show, has told us, hey, man, I'm an emotional guy. I make bad decisions at times, but that's just me. But he does take some of these, when he's thrown into the mix, he does take it personal, and when he sees you, he will let you know. And if that leads to something, then he's not afraid. He says he's very passionate about his guys, and if you come at his guys, you're coming at him. So it's nothing that he hasn't said he wouldn't do in the past. As far as bans and all that, all right, I would agree that the UFC's probably going to have a talk with them, or maybe even the commissions. Whoever winds up having that type of jurisdiction, and I think they're probably going to get into some sort of a warning stage. Who knows? I don't really get that right, because we don't have those types of problems too often. But for some reason, you like Kevin says, when you can outline somebody's behavior a little bit, you do start to think, wow, I wonder if somebody's going to eventually, say something. And Ali manages so many fighters, including 3 UFC world champions, that he's a big player in the game, and I think he's going to realize that he just needs to tone it down, because I don't think he can afford to not be at these events. His guys want him there. His guys always stick up for him. And like I say, he represents a lot of big fighters. So the UFC's constantly conducting business with Ali Abdelaziz. So I think this will get sorted out, but I do believe probably at some point a conversation is going to be had.
Let's go to Showtime in Tennessee.
What's up, Showtime? It's your time.
Hey, what's going on, fella? Hey, that last caller, what was that? Is that dude from Chicago? Where the hell are you from?
Yeah, that's that fool Kevin from Chicago.
Kevin is a goddamn Colby Covington bet rider. He always riding Colby Covington's dick. Fuck Colby Covington. Fuck ass. I can't wait.
He likes the wrestlers. I don't know that he's is he a big Covington fan? I've never really caught on to that.
He just loves wrestlers.
Yeah, he loves the wrestlers is what he loves.
So he a booger eater like Colin Cowherd say that. Motherfucker that like wrestling, grown as men, booger eaters. But
who's the other one? Colin Cowherd's a booger eater? Is that what he said?
Not pro wrestling.
Colin Cowherd calls grown men that like pro wrestlers booger eaters that live in their mom's basement.
No, not pro wrestling. That's wrestling.
Yeah, that bullshit ass wrestling that y'all talking about WWE, that shit. That's fake shit.
Right, but what we're saying is that Kevin likes wrestlers, not pro wrestlers. So he likes to talk about Askren and Cormier and the NC2A wrestling meets.
He loves talking about Ali, and he calling them filthy animals using that fucking Colby Covington dialect. I hate that type of shit. That shit gets to me. So I don't really like that. I don't know where you guys from, but where I'm from, when people talk shit, they got to be held accountable. Just
Absolutely.
Like if I saw him, and if I talk shit about him, if he come check me like a man, I'm going to respect that. But Colby Covington likes to talk all his noise, and then when people come check him, he want to play the woe is me role. Come on, man, you can't do that. And this is the thing about we act about, too. Man, these guys are fucking fighters, man. These not cheerleaders, so they going to have a bunch of testosterone built up. And we want them to behave and act like gentlemen, but sometimes it's just not going. When you cross the line on some of this stuff this dude's saying, man, he's crossing the line on this stuff, man. It's borderline racist. This shit he's saying, with that big ass hat he's always wearing. He got to check. It's like they lost the
Uh-oh.
things with that.
Okay, I think we got the gist of the call. You're kind of breaking up a little bit, Showtime. I gather you're not a Colby Covington fan, and yes, you're right. Okay, so let's agree to disagree on this. You are going to be held accountable by these fighters, and you're right. These aren't cheerleaders. These are very, very aggressive men and women who sometimes when they've had it, that's when they will chirp up or walk up to you and say, hey, what's your problem? However, I think one thing we could all agree, that even if that is your MO, it's not the buffet line. You know what I mean? It's... Call somebody aside or something, or you just missed your time. If somebody's in the buffet line and you can't stand them, you don't rush them there. You just say, oh, there's that fool Covington.
Let's wait till he comes out.
Exactly, and we'll talk to him. We'll have a conversation outside or whatever, and that's that. But there, no, that's not the spot. Once that conversation starts, I would imagine that two grown men who get paid to fight professionally can talk it out and figure it out. But you know how fighters are, man. They don't like that, you know. And sometimes this can get escalated, and sometimes people take it personal. Everybody's got different upbringings, and some people like to squash it, others don't. But I think you just, at least that's how I would take it. I'm pretty sure that even if I was an emotional man, unless my life was threatened or something like that, if I just had a problem with what somebody said, and I knew that they were in my vicinity, I got to pick my spot as to where I can do it and not upset the public. Because I think every fighter knows the Palms is owned by the Fertittas, and that's just not the right place to take care of that. You know what I mean? To even if you're just shouting and not necessarily pushing and punching or doing anything, if you're just shouting, that's just not the spot.
Let's go to Giver Saint in Boston.
What's up, Giver Saint? How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Not too bad.
I had a question. I'm good. I got 3 minor questions. I want to know what you think about Usman comparing to Khabib. You think he's like the 170-pound version of Khabib?
That's one way to put it, I think.
I think
he puts a lot of pressure on you. Has a great gas tank.
He's explosive.
Gets you down and pounds the shit out of you. So yeah, I see that. I think when he's standing, he says he's got a formidable kicking game and he wants to kick you and punch you, and he'll be a little bit more of a kickboxer. I think Khabib has developed hands, and I think Khabib would just try and punch with you a little bit more like a boxer. But on the ground, they're pretty similar.
And number 2, Donald Cerrone. I keep hearing that he's a star or something like that. Do you guys really think he is? Because I don't really think he draws like that. He's never really main eventing anything, and he's also kind of a gatekeeper. He never really won a title. So, do you think he's a star?
I think he kind of falls in the lines of kind of the way Nate Diaz is, where if Nate Diaz isn't fighting somebody that's going to play the game on the other side of him, I don't know that he sells the tickets. Like, he needs Conor McGregor.
He's a good B-side for sure.
I think Cowboy's kind of the same thing. You know, you can't just give him anyone. It's got to be a good fighter to be able to sell. So,
but I think he's a star. I just don't think he's a superstar.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And my third and final question is about Stephen Thompson. He's basically the last guy to beat Robert Whittaker. If you think he moved up to 185, how well do you think he would actually fare?
Yeah, not too bad. I think he'd do pretty decent because he's got a big frame that still could probably fill out a little bit more. I don't know if that takes away from his quickness, but I don't think so. I think he would actually do pretty decent.
I think he could max out at 175, at 185. I mean, the way Giver Saint put it, he is the last guy to beat Whittaker. Who was it? Whittaker and Court McGee or something like that was back-to-back. I know Whittaker had 2 back-to-back losses before he went up. But anyway, he was one of those 2. And I could see Thompson being at least a 500 fighter as a middleweight just because he's such a difficult puzzle to solve. But can he make it all the way to a world title? I'd probably say no. I think he's perfect at 170. But if they split up 70 and 65, I think he would do good at either one of them. I mean, he did fight to a draw in the first fight against Tyron Woodley. So he's proven he's championship material. But I don't think he can get it done at 85 personally. And I also think that him and Whitaker are different fighters since then. All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. We hope to go 1 for 2 when we talk to Ray Cooper III after this break. So don't touch that dial. All right, we're back. If you haven't noticed, PFL made a big announcement today. It looks like they're going to have 3 of them here in the next few days or so. And in those 3 announcements, they're going to release the rosters for Season 2. Now remember, PFL beginning on May 9th, they move over to ESPN. That's right, ESPN 2, ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes. That huge news dropped last week, and the fights will be on Thursday night beginning on May 9th. Now, the first announcement was kind of like, they called it Round 1, making the cut, and it gives love to a lot of the veterans from Season 1. So 5 world champions are coming back, and a few select superstars that made it to the semifinals and the finals, they were also anointed or chosen. Here are some of the names, including Steven Seiler, Lance Palmer, Lewis Taylor, Vinny Magalhaes, and there's more, and we'll get to that, but I want to get to our guest, and Ray Cooper III, who I thought was one of the MVPs, man, of that regular season and making it all the way to the finals. Sure, heck yeah, he was a superstar, man. He was getting some work done quickly, and I loved watching his family be a part of the ride. So he's part of the announcement as well. So congratulations to all those fighters, and remember, they're all going to compete during a regular season all the way to the playoffs, and the winner gets $1 million. Joining us now on the hotline is Ray Cooper III. What's up, Ray? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it?
Man, it's great. Thank you for asking. Have you had a nice 2 months to relax and chill after that exciting first season that you had with PFL 1 last year?
Yeah, it was awesome. I just came back home, relaxed for a month. Just came back home. I wanted to just relax a little bit from this long season, but I got back training right now, and I just can't wait to fight again.
Are you pretty healthy, Ray, after all them fights? I mean, it was a busy season.
Yeah, we got some little bruises and stuff, but all in all, my body's good, and I'm just ready to fight again.
Mm-hmm. How would you can you summarize it in just one word, or maybe use a few words? How was season 1 for you? You were a superstar in the regular season, then you won 2 fights in one night, and then you just came up a little bit short in the finals. So how would you summarize it?
It was amazing.
Okay.
Just to go back to fighting a tournament style. I know you guys know I wrestled most of my life, so that's how I usually competed, and it was just an awesome experience, and it was awesome to see the fighters getting treated well, and yeah, just going through the whole season, it was an awesome experience.
That's great, and I'm sure the PFL will be glad to hear that. You used the word amazing, and that's what they wanted to do. They changed a lot of people's lives, and I'm sure you're going to do a lot with the money that you made throughout the regular season. I believe the compensation for the runner-up was $200,000. So hopefully you can invest that back into your own career and go after that $1 million here in season 2.
Yeah, it was a blessing to make this much money. I never did make this much money ever, so that was a blessing in itself, and just to make it to the finals, I was really thankful, and yeah, it was an awesome experience, and I just can't wait to fight again.
Is the recipe the same, Ray? Same team, same training, or will there be a little different tweaks to season 2, even just the approach to your training depending on the opponents?
Well, obviously, I just got to work a little bit on protecting my neck, and but all in all, everything's the same. I'm gonna fight the same. I'm gonna come at everybody the same way. I'm just gonna pick it up where I left off. I hit a little bump in the road, but I'm gonna do the same thing I did last season. I'm gonna try to finish everybody, get back to the finals, and rewrite my wrong.
Yeah, you were a beast, man. No other way to put it. You had an awesome season. All right, let me give it to Goes here, my co-host. Goes, what do you have for Ray Cooper III?
Ray, we're going to find out pretty soon here who all these new people are that are going to be involved with PFL this year. Do you already know who they are in your division? And if so, I know you can't maybe share a name, but was there a name that really made you happy?
Not really. I just focus on Magomed at this point. I really don't know who else is. I got a kind of a feel of it, but I really don't know exactly. But yeah, I just focus on Magomed, you know.
As far as he goes, the possibility of you seeing him again is there's a very good chance of that. Does it make sense to? I know you want to right that ship. Is it to get right back at him right away, or would it make more sense for that to play out a little bit later? Like, what is your personal thoughts on that?
Well, for me, I want to get him off right off the bat, just because I feel like I was winning the fight until I made that one mistake and it cost me. But I'm ready for anybody they give me. I'm gonna run through them just like how I did. And, yeah.
In regards to season 2, was there ever a moment where PFL reached out and just asked for the fighters' opinions on any rule changes or scheduling changes for season 2 that would maybe benefit you guys a little bit more, that you guys would like? And if so, can you maybe share what you would have changed?
There was really nothing that I could have changed. Maybe just have a fight a little bit closer to Hawaii, but other than that, everything was perfect. I was ready for anything. I got used to the long distances, so there's nothing there's nothing I can say or change PFL. I love the way it is, and it's awesome.
That's so true. See, at first I thought Ray was saying, hey, why don't you guys come out to Hawaii? But what he means is Hawaii, just to LA alone, is like 5 hours. So now we all know from us going to New York or in DC that's another 5 hours. So Ray's doing like anywhere between like a 9 to 10 hour flight, depending on whether he's stopping or not, and he's going through 6 time zones, right, Ray? So there's a lot of jet lag there. It's like the same as, I guess, a New Yorker going to London or something.
Yeah, it does a toll on your body, and it's far, it's draining, and but I got it down, and I leave about 10 days out, so my body gets used to it. But Ray has to fly constantly, so it's pretty hard on him too. But it's all right for me. I'm used to it, and yeah.
Now here's another interesting name, Ray. I think you're already familiar with a few of the names. You mentioned Magomed Karamov, but also Lewis Taylor is dropping from middleweight to your guys' division. So right there, man, just you three alone makes welterweight really, really exciting. I'm sure you're excited about that. I would imagine a fighter like yourself wants the best. I mean, a million's attractive, but I would imagine the tougher the better, Ray?
Yeah, I think our division is coming to one of the most stacked divisions. It was last year too, but even more with the middleweight champion coming down. And if I can get him off the bat too, I would love to welcome him to the division too. And I think our division was more stacked in the middleweights. And if he wants to come down, he can get some too. So I don't have a problem with it.
I love it. Ray Cooper III joining us here on the hotline. He is overall 17-6 as a mixed martial artist. Was a finalist in PFL welterweight division last year after a regular season in which he went 2-0 and then a playoff run of 2-1, including 2 fights in one night, and all 4 of those fights ending quickly. 3 of them in the first round, once in the second round. 2 against the great Jake Shields. What an incredible season. Hey, you sound like you're in really, really good spirits, Ray. It looks like you said, season 1 was amazing. Season 2, you're looking forward to it. Now you had your rest. You made the best money ever. We're really, really happy for you, man. But again, we can hear it in your voice that it just sounds like you're a happy mixed martial artist fighting for a quality MMA organization. In addition to, I said this before we started the interview, you guys are going to be on ESPN. That's huge. You must be pretty happy at that as well.
Oh, yeah. I was blown away by that. We're just taking steps up to the top, and right now we're right next to the UFC, and pretty soon it's not going to be any close, because the way we're running things, we're sport-driven, and the season, the fighters, they're fighting more than 5 times a year, so it's amazing, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it, and I can't wait to fight again.
Right on, my man. Well, all right. Thank you for the time, and congratulations on making it to season 2. We look forward to more of those amazing KOs that you showed off in Season 1.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
All right, we'll talk soon. All right, folks.
Hello.
That is Ray Cooper III, one of the most exciting fighters over at PFL, which, if you haven't heard, about 2 weeks ago, the news came out. They will be part of the ESPN family, just like Ray Cooper said, joining UFC. UFC era started on ESPN back in January, and on May 9th, PFL will start with ESPN. All right, big shout out to Greg Savage for lining that interview up. Now, guys, I want to talk about a little bit of this undercard from UFC 235. We kind of didn't have too much of a chance to go over it because we were running a little bit out of time. Yesterday, we consumed ourselves big time with the main event, the co-main event, and everything that had to do with Lawler and Askren. But did we give enough love to Johnny Walker, Diego Sanchez, Pedro Munoz? Man, those were big, big nights for those guys. I feel like every time Sanchez is in there, that might be the fight that, should he lose, he's going to lay down the gloves. Even though has great energy here in our studio last week when he was here, and it sounds like he still wants to continue doing it. He's older, and nobody else is left from his season. You know what I'm saying? And plus, you hit a couple of them skids, those losing streaks, and you just start to wonder if it's worth it. But now he's won 2 in a row, and he didn't lay down any gloves that night. He could have went out with a win. He's already had a legendary career. I'm telling you, he will be a UFC Hall of Famer. But he's still chugging along.
I thought he looked amazing in his fight. I want to say, didn't you do like a mini daily debate? Was that yesterday, where we talked about of those people who stood out the most?
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue with Johnny Walker. I mean, you always want to see what's next, possibly for John Jones, but it felt like that's maybe a little bit of ways away.
He's spectacular. The only problem is it's all happening so quick that what we're not getting to see is him come back from a precarious situation. Like, I want to see someone take him to the ground, take his back, just to see, well, what would he be like, if a wrestler gets him down, or a jiu-jitsu guy takes his back. I mean, there's still questions out there, but
like
the
Francis
reason
Ngannou.
Yeah, kind of. Exactly. And Ngannou was blasting everybody, and then all of a sudden he came up against a freight train in Miocic, and we were like, oh, okay, he's a little bit different, after you get to that first round. Remember, he was huffing and puffing and all that. But, I want more questions to be answered. But he's only 26. Right now, he's hurt that shoulder. I think luckily it wasn't serious. He only expects to be out 1 month. But, boy, is he destructive, man.
But, see, the thing is, with Diego, I think a lot of people would have been impressed with a victory. Whether it was boring, exciting, just him getting a victory over a young, up-and-coming fighter like Mickey Gall, I think that's pretty impressive at his age after everything he's been through. But on top of that, saying all the right things leading in and looking fantastic doing it, I think that guy's still got like at least another 3 more in him if he can keep fighting like that. The only thing is, if he were to be, say, KO'd in a bad fashion, I think at any moment that plug could get pulled. But as long as he keeps competing like that, I don't mind seeing him. And I think that type of fight was perfect for him. As long as he's good with that, then why not? However, in our studio, remember, he did say, I want to win a title. I don't know. I don't know if something like that could happen. I don't think so. I hate to be a pessimist, but he did fight his ass off that night, and he looked really impressive.
What about Zabit Magomedsharipov? We just found out that Alexander Volkanovski will be facing Jose Aldo. What do you do with Zabit Magomedsharipov, who looked great against Jeremy Stevens? I'll start at the top. Holloway, the champion, is going to 55 to fight Dustin Poirier for the lightweight interim title. And if he wins, he's got to unify with Khabib Nurmagomedov. So he may not even defend that belt for a while, which again is questionable as to why they're doing that, because he's got plenty of killers that are chasing him. Frankie Edgar has felt like he's next is for him. Forget about Volkanovski and Zabit or anybody else or the return of. He feels like that shot is his. But with Max taking that fight, he's just a name that I'm going to keep up here. I just threw him up in the air. Remember that goes. Brian Ortega, he came up short against Max Holloway. I'm sure he wants to start the comeback, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a name I'm going to throw up there.
Okay.
Edgar's coming off a win. Ortega's coming off a loss. But high-profile guys. Aldo's already booked against Volkanovski, and Volkanovski's already booked against Aldo. So I'm going to skip through them. Renato Moicano just lost to Aldo. He didn't get that complete KO, that removal from consciousness, but he took some damage. So I'm going to throw him up there, but don't reach for him too quickly just yet, because I think it's better to just have him chill for an extra 2 months more than Aldo, the winner of that. Mirsad Bektik, beast. Chad Mendes, you heard that he may have retired, but he's still on the UFC website. I still see him on there. So I'm treating him just as a fighter that took a loss hard against Volkanovski. Mirsad Bektik, Chad Mendes, Zabit Magomed Sharapov, Ricardo Lamas, Cub Swansons of the world. Like, what do we do with all these dudes? Even Yair Rodriguez had an amazing fight against Korean Zombie. His stock went up, but he was about to lose to the Zombie before he threw that elbow, that upward elbow. So I just threw a lot of names up there, man. Like that division is just popping, and none of them get Holloway for a while. So what do you do? What do you do with Zabit Magomed Sharapov? That's where I want you to start with. What do you do with him first?
It's tough.
Who do you give him?
If you're the matchmaker, I like the Yair fight.
Ooh.
Just because you've already...
They were supposed to do it once, right?
Yeah, you were supposed to do it. They gave us a taste of it. You know it's going to be a barn burner. You put it as the first fight on a pay-per-view, and there's no way that fight won't be great.
I know.
Have them go at it.
In
and
fact,
whatever happens,
in
you're
fact,
stuck
just
with,
make
with
it the
somebody
lead-off
people
fight
like.
at International Fight Week, right? Or
Yeah,
Chicago.
dude.
Just say Chicago. There's your first fight. Go get your fucking tickets. Trust us on the co-main event. Trust us on the main event. We got you, because we're starting off with Yair Rodriguez versus Zabit Magomed Sharapov.
If you do a guy like Brian Ortega, let's say, I feel like you're killing one of the guys that could be like you want to try and rebuild Brian Ortega a little bit, and you have something with Zabit, so I wouldn't do that matchup. But I'm a little bit more comfortable with Yair, and whoever comes out of that, just start pushing that person, start building that person again. But that's where I would go.
Yeah. All right. We're going to save the featherweight talk because we can go in so many directions. I know I named off at least 8 guys. We could almost have like a little mini tournament. But right now is not the time. I just wanted to concentrate more on Zabit Magomed Sharapov. All right, what we do have to do is take a break. Let's do that. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. Shout out to Big Ralph from Tustin, California, listening in his Toyota Tacoma. And we'll be right back.
so fat they gave Dracula diabetes. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
I was there that night, and
hang on a second. Let me just say this real fast.
All right, go ahead.
That tonight at 10:30 Eastern, the Boston Celtics look to slay the Golden State Warriors on NBA Radio Series 207, XM86, and streaming on your phone and at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. And trust me, the Celtics are not going to slay the Golden State Warriors. I think the Golden State Warriors are the play there. Go ahead.
I was in the arena that night, and the clip that we played did not do it justice. It was deafening when that went down.
Right. But it did send goosebumps down my arm just hearing that.
Mm-hmm. It was loud in that arena. People were going nuts.
Mm-hmm. Why did we play that, by the way? Because today is the 3-year anniversary of Nate Diaz submitting Conor McGregor at UFC 196. Nate Diaz, all I got to say is this. Come back to the sport already, man. You're very missed. You're a straight-up G. Your fights just, they don't suck. Having you in the sport does not suck. 33 years old. Still plenty of time to come back, man, and makes even more money. I don't think everything should hinge on him and McGregor for the third time, but come back. It's got to be less, obviously. You got to be honest. McGregor is the A side there, but you could become an A side if you come back and maybe you give Cowboy Cerrone a rematch, or maybe they match you up against Barbosa, or I don't know, one of these other stud lightweights, Ali Quinta, whoever. Maybe you can become a world champion one day. I don't know, but you should come back. We miss your fights, and I don't think it just has to be McGregor, or bust. Look at his run here. After November 13th, after April and November of 2013, he fought twice. That fight with Gray Maynard, remember that finish? It was at Mandalay Bay. That was a vicious KO. All right, but after that, this was November of 2013. Right now, we're in March of 2019, so 5.5 years ago. Since then, he lost to Dos Anjos. That fight took a year to materialize. Only fought one time. He missed weight, by the way, by 5 pounds. Then he fought 1 year later again, Michael Johnson, and looked awesome.
Probably the best he's ever looked.
Correct. Then he submits Conor McGregor in March of 2016. So if you're following, fought once in 2014, once in 2015, 1 year apart, each one of those fights. But then he comes back pretty quick, fights Conor McGregor, submits him, round 2, on March 5th, 2016. And then months later, him and Conor broke the record for most pay-per-view sales at the time, 1.65 million. It eclipsed UFC 100 with Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir, GSP and Thiago Alves. And that was on August 20, again, 2016, and since then he has not fought. Those 2 fights with McGregor were at welterweight, but he has pretty much been a lifelong lightweight. He had a little bit of a run at welterweight, but yeah. So all I can say is come back, and big shout out to our friends at MMA History Today. Give them a follow at MMA History Today. Jumbo Josh.
You know what else happened at that pay-per-view? We'd be remiss to not remember Miesha Tate, our own Miesha Tate, submitting Holly Holm to win her UFC Women's Bantamweight title that night. We'll hear more about that tomorrow when she's back on MMA Tonight.
Yes. Give us a preview. Do they have some guest book for us tomorrow? Yep.
Yeah, we got Miesha Tate, Ryan McKinnell, 6 to 8 Eastern on Fight Nation. Roy Jones Jr. will join us to respond to Vitor Belfort, calling him out for one championship, who Miesha Tate is the vice president of. Should be fun.
Yeah. On that fight card as well, wins for Diego Sanchez, Darren Elkins, Ciara Bahardizada, Amanda Nunes defeated Valentina Shevchenko, Corey Anderson defeated Tom Lawler, Ilir Latifi, and Miesha Tate.
Some players on that card.
It was a good card, yeah. We got to get out of here, folks. Big thanks to Ray Cooper III for his time. Tomorrow we'll be back, and now that we know the phones and the connections and everything's solid, we're going to have a strong run. So join us Monday through Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, MMA Junkie Radio. For Josh and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.